Welcome to the Money Over 50 podcast, brought to you by Dallas Davison and Michael Hogue from Money Over 50 Financial Advisors. This information is general in nature and does not take into account your objectives, financial situation, or needs. Therefore, you should consider whether the information is appropriate for you and your personal circumstances. If you require personal advice, please contact Money Over 50 Financial Advisors. Here are your hosts, Dallas Davison and Michael Hogue.
Welcome to Money Over 50 with Dallas and Michael. Dallas, your topic today, I'm very intrigued. There are only 3 things that you need to do. We just don't know what they are yet.
Thanks, Michael. I thought it was pretty clever little title. And now I can actually explain to you what I'm talking about. I'm hoping you'll agree, but more likely you'll can what I've got to say, and we'll argue about it a bit, so that'll be good. The point I was making, if I explain the story of where I got the 3 things from, I used to compete in mixed martial arts and had a few fights, and I had one of my coaches, one of his things was after a fight, he'd watch it all, and then the only feedback that he'd give you would be a post-it note. And he'd write 3 things on a post-it note. It's a very limiting thing to only write on a post-it note. Mm. And he'd put 3 dot points of, these are the only 3 things that you need to go and fix. Mm. And obviously, it wasn't that good, so there were a lot of other things that I did need to go and fix.
There could have been 53 things that he was thinking of.
Yes, yeah. But the limiting factor here of the post-it note, and I talked to him about it, he did this on purpose, was that, you know, if I was then going away, which I was, and then getting ready and training and trying to improve and get better for the next fight, if he'd given me 53 things, I wouldn't have done any of them. Mm. So by just giving 3 things, what he would actually do is go, okay, here's the post-it note. You have no excuse now to not go and work on those 3 things. Here are the 3 things that they will drive 90% of the improvement that you really need to focus on. These are the limiting factors in your game at the moment. If you go and work on them, you will improve markedly. And it worked really well, because what you'd do is you'd go and work on those 3 things. You'd compete again, and he'd watch that fight, write the post-it note again, and there'd be the next 3 things and the next 3 things. And by doing that, you just constantly had a very clear progression of, this is what I need to focus on, this is what I need to control. And so what I've actually tried to do with my clients is it's a good rule of thumb. I never want my clients to leave a meeting, and this applies to we're talking about this as it relates to our clients, but even for people who are listening to this, if you're self-directed, don't ever put yourself in a situation where you say, here are the 20 things that I need to do to get my retirement planning on track. You really want to limit yourself, and this is what I do with my clients. Here are the only 3 things that you need to go and do right now. You know, for example, it might be change the investment strategy of your super fund, start to contribute this much into one of the partners' super funds, start to contribute this much in the other partner's super fund. That's it. If you get those 3 things done, that's going to drive 99%. Now, as a part of that, it's human nature that we kind of go, we want to optimize all these little bits and pieces. And you know, we've talked about this before, where there are, I mean, we've got 120 odd episodes at the moment. So there are 1,000,001 things that you can optimize on. But what you really need to try and do, the most important thing at the start is to try and get at of what is going to drive the biggest change to my situation over the next 10 years. What are the things that I now that are really going to impact that? And just go and do that. And then review everything else in 6 months' time, but just get started with those first 3 things.
Looking in a perfect world, you would actually have time to work on the 53 things, wouldn't you? And you'd have the mental capacity too, and you'd have the concentration to be able to do that.
Yep.
We are limited by resources all around of us. Time and mental energy and concentration is one of those things that people don't see as a limited resource in many respects.
Yep.
So they think, I can do these 53 things because they don't actually put a capacity on their time and their mental energy.
Yep.
Our director of financial doing, Hadfield, is fantastic for that, because we're continually taking jobs off her, and they're things that she does now manually that we have automated.
Yeah.
And she says, yeah, but that just takes a couple of minutes, and that takes a couple of minutes, and we say, Kylie, you just don't have those couple of minutes.
Yeah,
like,
and
it doesn't matter if that takes a couple of minutes. Like, its time is finite.
Yes,
and so what you're saying, I now know what you're talking about, Dallas. You're saying to really what you want to do is to work on those three things that will move the needle the most at the start.
Yes.
And and bed those down, and then actually go from there.
Yeah, and that's a great point you made there. Like, if we use those three different resources, and that's what they are. Like, it's obvious to people that money is a finite resource. I mean, if you've got $1,000 spare a fortnight, no one can say to you, put the $1,000 on your home loan and put it into super and invest it in this other way. We can sort of you really understand that there's only
you can conceptualize that there's only one lot of $1,000. There's not three times that $1,000 disposable per fortnight.
Yeah, if I use 500 out of that 1,000, I've only got 500 left. It doesn't work like that. I can't just keep using that money. Time, I think, is one that people probably, like you said, it's the next one down that people intellectually, I think, know that there's only so much time that you have spare. And, that, again, if you're spending half an hour working on something, you never get that back. You can't spend half an hour working on that as well as then on something else. You have to make a choice as to what you're spending that on. But I think that's an easy one to forget. But also the mental energy, or your attention or your focus, or whatever other word you want to use for that, is really something that I think people don't think of as a resource. Is that your attention is a finite resource, and your ability to focus on things is limited. So, like you say, in a perfect world, if you had unlimited mental energy or focus or attention, you'd just go and do the 53 things that you should do, and you'd just make it all work. But we know that in reality, you just can't do that. You do not have, especially given that your retirement planning is only one part of your life. Like, most people have, other things they want to be. They have work, which, they're focused on being the best at that. They've got relationships, they've got kids, they've got, friends, they've got hobbies, they've got all these things. There's really only so much left over for your retirement planning. So you just don't have as much spare mental energy as what you probably think. And so that's kind of the point I'm making here is we just accept that. We know that is the case. So we don't say to our clients, here's the 53 things that you could do that would make a slight difference. We say, of those 53 things, here are the 3 things that I need you to go and do. And that's the other part of it, is that usually, like you say, it's either Kylie or us. Our job is to go and handle any of those 53 things that we can take care of. But the things that we want our clients to focus on, and never want to leave them with more than 3, because even if they had the money, even if they had the time to do those things, the limiting factor is going to be that attention, or that ability to focus, that ability to stick to that long term. I really just want to get each of those 3 things bedded down at once before we move on to anything else.
And some of those 3 things would be, point 1, we want to put this into place. So Kylie will contact you, and you'll have to do the limited amount of paperwork as humanly possible, because we'll outsource most of that to her to actually do that for you. So, look, one of the recurring themes that our clients tell us that we provide as a value add to them is peace of mind, which is fairly broad. And what I think most of our clients mean by that is that they don't have to spend the time and the mental energy and the concentration on looking at this every single week for 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 hours. They know that they've outsourced that to us. Now, there's still some legwork that they need to do, of course, because there's not. We can't do absolutely everything. We try we try to be able to do all of the legwork as humanly possible for our clients, but we can't. So there is still some legwork they need to do. However, what they really, I think, get a lot of value out of is knowing that we'll let them know when it's important and that they need to do it, and then Kylie will follow them up and take all of that legwork, or as much of that legwork
as possible,
as she can.
Yeah.
I made a comment 5 minutes before we started this podcast.
Yeah.
While we're having a coffee.
That's true.
And we didn't even have this topic in mind. I said I've become hopeless in all other facets of my life other than work.
Which again,
I mean, what I'm dedicating all my time to is work.
Yeah.
Obviously being a good husband, being a good father to a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old. I've got a saying now. I have a second job, which is a personal assistant to 2 toddlers. Because when I've got them on my own, all I'm doing is
running around after them.
Dad, get over this. Dad, get over that. And at the moment, my mother, we're moving her into a more suitable house for her. She's 75. So and in every other facet of my life,
it's just getting parked.
I'm just hopeless.
Yep.
So like if I had someone like looking after that and a Kylie. So to give you an example, we're recording this in February of 2021.
Yeah.
In 2019, I was supposed to book in late 2019. I was supposed to book a meeting with a dermatologist. Playing sport in the sun in North Queensland.
Yeah.
I have some sunspots, and I'm supposed to go in there every 12 months and get a checkup. So that was supposed to occur 12 months ago in 2020.
Yeah.
It still hasn't occurred now.
Yeah. Because
the sticking point was that I needed a referral from a GP.
Yeah.
A technicality.
Yeah. But
now, if I had someone, if I had a team.
Yeah.
Working for me and said, okay, I've booked you in for the GP, and all you have to do is pick up the phone now. It's a phone meeting. It's not a face-to-face meeting, and you can tell them what you need, and then they'll fax or email the referral letter over, and then I'm going to book you in for that dermatologist appointment. It's going to be in your calendar. You're going to show up there on this day.
Yeah.
It would get done. It would have a better chance of getting done than it has so far. So
that's exactly right. Like you look at, like you just said, you list those things. You got work, kids, family.
Yep.
Then when you go, dermatologist appointment, it's not, the limiting factor is not, it's not time. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily time. It's not. There's no real thing stopping you from booking that meeting. It's just that you just don't have the mental capacity to do it, and something is going to get pushed to the back burner, and you've obviously subconsciously made a decision to go, I don't have the capacity to think about that now. I'll just push that off, and I'll push that off. And that's kind of what I mean is, whether you choose to do that or not, whether you consciously said, I'm just not going to book that meeting with the dermatologist, or whether you subconsciously do it, you still end up in the same situation. It just doesn't happen. And so that's kind of where, you know, a lot of what we've talked about in these podcasts is about being aware of our flaws as human beings. Like we're not robots. We're not going to be perfect. We're not going to be able to just chew through the next thing. There are, there's only so much that you can focus on at one time. So it's really for me about just accepting that and knowing, okay, well, given the limited amount of attention and energy and headspace that I have right now, what are the biggest things that I need to do? And I think even, we've gotten better at doing that with our clients around closing that loop of, I had a meeting with someone on Friday. I'm now going to jump in and send them an email and say, as per our discussions, all I need from you right now are your grandkids' date of birth and you to contact your accountant and give permission for me to speak to them.
Yep.
And in that meeting, it was interesting because we often see the relief where I was talking about, we're going to do this, and then we're going to do that, and then we need to do this. And I could see this bloke going, oh no, I don't, there's going to be 65 jobs for me that come out of this. I've got more important things to worry about. And at the end of it, when I said, right, I just need these 2 things from you. Oh, okay, well that's easy. I can do that.
Yep.
And then the follow-up to that is obviously, like you say, in this case it's me, but normally that would be Kylie touching base there saying, these are the 2 things that we do need. The rest of it will be taken care of. And that's I think the big one for me is about that's the phrase that we talk about, is closing that loop. It's that there's no point saying, here are the 53 different things that you could go and do. All right, good luck. We'll see you in 2 weeks' time, because we just know that nothing's going to get done. It's really about going. That's a big part of, I think, as you get better as a financial advisor, and as you get more focused on a niche of retirement planning, which is what we've done, we really get good at simplifying things and going, in our mind, as our clients are giving us information, telling us things, we're already automatically going, okay, there's 50 different things that could happen here. What are the most important, most time critical, and things that are really going to, not cause delays down the track? Okay, these 3 things, right. In order to do those 3 things, I need to do this, Kylie needs to do this, and my client needs to do this, and just going bang, 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 that's your job, this is my job, that's Kylie's job. Yeah. And that's, I think, you spoke about that peace of mind thing, is that it's interesting to me often when we have that meeting with people. It almost doesn't matter what you tell them that they need to do, as long as they know exactly what that thing is. It's that thing of, okay, like I had this with another new client the other day about what's the amount of money each week that I need to be putting into super. And for them, it was $1,000 a week. You need to put $1,000 a week into super to get where you need to be. Okay, great. They at least, and that was the thing of, they've got to give up $1,000 a week. It's gonna probably cause a bit of a dent to their lifestyle, but at least they know what that thing is. Where it was, for the last 2 years before they came and saw me, they were saving $700 a week, so they were on track. They were doing a lot.
They were thereabouts.
They were thereabouts. The only difference was they didn't have the peace of mind, because they didn't know, is that enough, or should it be less? Should it be more? Are we dialing that up? And and what other things should we be doing? And so it was kind of causing, there are certain things that, like we say, we can't do. I can't go and save that $1,000 a week for them, but I can take away the stress of going, is that enough? Should I be doing more? Should I be doing less? What else should I be doing? If I can just say, it's 1,000, that's the figure, here's the BPay details, go and do that. Yep. It's then, it's still hard, but at least it's simple now.
Yeah, and obviously there's a lot of stuff that you did behind the scenes. That $700 was going into a low returning cash account, and it wasn't going into super and claiming a tax deduction on the at the end of the financial year. So you changed all of that to them.
Yes,
what they were seeing is $700 only increased to $1,000. They were thereabouts in terms of the impact on their lifestyle.
Yep.
And you provided the peace of mind to be able to do that.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this and, like me, you're supposed to book that dermatologist appointment, what I mean by that, if you were supposed to make some changes to your retirement plan, get your retirement plans on track at the start of 2020 or the start of 2019 or the start of 2018, and all you've done so far is actually listen to the Money Over 50 podcast, then certainly make contact with us. At a podcast at mo50.com.au. We have we meet with people all around Australia via Zoom. The first meeting, we did some of those last week. In fact, I met with a lady from Melbourne last week, and we had a Zoom meeting. Went for about an hour, and off the back of that, she has decided to become a client because she felt that we were across her situation, and she was comfortable enough with that meeting. So, look, it's a really low obligation, no cost way to actually to look to take the first step to look at your retirement plan. So,
a big part of that is we've talked before in different podcasts about what do we discuss in that first meeting, and I think one of the things that, like we've touched on here, the takeaway from that meeting will always be, I think people's fear is, I've used the analogy before, if you pick up a rock in your garden bed and there's all these squiggly things under it, and then the instinct is to go, I'll just put the rock back down, and then I don't have to look at the squiggly things. But most people one of the concerns is if I start to look at my retirement planning and my super and what are we, all these different things, you're picking up a rock and there's all these squiggly things under it. And I think to book that meeting, one of the concerns is these guys are going to tell me I've got to go and do 100 things different to what I'm doing now, and I've got to change all these things, and there's going to be 100 hours worth of legwork that I've got to do. And this is sort of the point, is that we're very aware that we're not. We know what we're like in every other aspect of our life, so we know what people are like with their financial planning. If we know that if we give you 100 things to go and do, none of them are going to happen. It's our job, and that's sort of what I see as a big part of our job, is to have a look at that situation and go, okay, what are the next steps? What can we do now? Here's the one or two things that I just need you to go and do now. And off the back of every meeting, we're trying to make that as streamlined and as simple as possible for people. As to here are the slight changes that you need to make, and then we discuss again in that next meeting. So you're never going to leave a meeting and get 50 hours worth of homework from us.
Well, in that Zoom meeting, to give you an example, like one of the concerns of this lady was that, and one of her questions that she'd emailed me before we actually conducted the meeting was that she was concerned about gift tax in giving some money to her adult children.
Yep. And
I was able to put her mind at ease because I confirmed that the money that she had that wasn't from the sale of a capital gains tax asset. Yep. I said, okay, there is no tax. Yep. You're in your early 60s. What you're probably thinking of is the Centrelink look back when it's time to be of age pension age, which wasn't until age 67. If you've gifted, over a certain amount away, Centrelink will treat that as an asset for a period of time before they amortise that down. So given that that's longer than 5 years away. You'll be fine. She and the other thing I actually said to her, done correctly, you won't be getting any age pension because you will just, your assets will be too high. So it's one of those things that you don't really need to worry about right now. So
and that's
whether
a great point.
whether she became a client or not, there was a few more items in there as well that she had as points of worry, I guess.
Well,
so points of concern.
It's an open loop. It's just ticking along in the back of your mind.
Yeah.
Going, oh, geez, will that impact me? Will that not? So like you said, even if she didn't become a client, at least you've been able to close that loop, put that aside. Okay, don't worry about that now. What are the things that you should be thinking about or that you should be making changes to?
Yep.
And I think that's the key. One point I just want to make before we wrap up is that when we're talking about this, is there's only ever three things. There's three things that you need to do. It's not to say that that you're not. What am I trying to say here? By only doing those three things, what you find is that it's a constant process of refinement. It's not to say go and do three things and you'll only get half of the outcomes that you should be, and that's okay. We're not saying that. We're perfectionists in our way of doing this. It's just that what we're saying is, in most situations, there are three things that are going to get you 90% of the results right now.
Yep.
And then, so let's get them better down. Let's get 90% of that worked out. And then as part of our ongoing process, it's then the next three things.
Yeah, so you're betting down the first three things.
Yeah.
And that becomes
just par for the course. You're just doing that automatically.
It becomes automatic, and it becomes something that you become good at.
Yes.
You bed those down, you move on to another three. So you're always refining and bringing that back through.
Yeah. And I think that's probably surprising for most people is that at any one time there are only three things that are going to make 90-95% of the difference, and that's the key is identifying what those three things are, getting them, making those changes, getting them in place, and then moving on to the next thing and the next thing, and that's how you get to 100% of the results that you could possibly be getting. It's not to start with here's 53 things. Let's just do them on an ad hoc basis. Let's just chip away at this so that over time you are putting yourself in the best position that you possibly can without having any of the stress and the hopes and all those sorts of things that are stopping you sleeping at night. We're just going to do it as part of a simple process.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to the Money Over 50 podcast with Money Over 50 financial advisors. We look forward to catching up again soon.